Hello guys, today we will take a look at HK416 assault rifle. So this is product of Heckler & Koch from Germany. So generally speaking, this is quite an old design, given that this rifle is currently being fielded to German special forces, the units in Bundeswehr, of course not all of them, but at least some of them. Also, I tried to make this video a few times, but always I start renting. Few problems with this rifle and generally the concept of it being fielded to Bundeswehr currently. First of all, the absolute laziness of German designers. So, this rifle was developed around the year 2000, but of course in the core it's basically AR-15, yes, with external piston, not internal one, which is also the key component and a detail that we'll be talking quite a lot about. So basically the operate of the gas system it's right over here. Do I personally think that there is some big benefit to the external piston compared to the internal one? I definitely do. I know that this is kind of a controversial subject because a lot of the experts, a lot of the soldiers claim no, the internal piston is just right, there is no problem with it. In my personal experience, by far the worst assault rifle that I ever had was Daniel Defense M4A1. It was so terrible that even AK-74 that got burned in vehicle to the point that the springs needed to be replaced because they just lost all the power, was better rifle than the Daniel Defense. That's also why I actually chose to go for this Geissele AR-15 to get it issued, basically because I refuse to believe that the internal piston AR-15 are such crappy weapons, and so far this is okay. Anyway, in my personal experience, long stroke gas piston, short stroke gas pistons, they are just better, they work more reliably. I also believe that the feedback from the weapon is better toward the shooter and all that, but these are details that we will get to. Anyway, this is the latest and greatest variant, basically the pinnacle of the development of HK416, which is kind of sad, to be honest with you. Anyway, we have 14.5-inch barrel. These rifles are not all that uncommon in Ukraine currently. In my unit specifically, this is kind of a award weapon, like when you're doing a good job you get this rifle issued, but many of the teams, many of the units, just everybody got those. Of course I believe that we didn't exactly pay for this one. This is just help from Germany, which, given that Germany is one of the main causes why we have the situation that we have here, okay, why not? So 14.5-inch barrel. In the set with the weapon you get these offset sights, you get the suppressor including, Finish one Ace Ultra flow through generation 2. Then also what you get are 4 magazines and this Strike Industries hand stop, and that's about it. Generally the completion of the weapon reflecting the fact that this was competing for the Bundeswehr contract, and the HDL assault rifles that we're getting have pretty much exactly the same setup. There you have also included head stop, 14.5-inch barrel and all that. So when we look at the Ace Ultra suppressor, we can see that it does use the A2 birdcage, let's say, interface for locking. So to undo the suppressor, we just need to twist it a little bit and then undo it from the grooves. Generally the suppressor is the best part of the weapon, and eventually I would like to buy this one myself for my rifle. Under that we don't have exactly birdcage design, but we have this 3-prong flash hider, which I think it's fantastic design. I really like the 3-prong flash hiders myself. Then when we go further back, there were variants of HK416s with adjustable gas blocks, but by far the most common variants just don't have it. Don't have adjustable gas blocks. But here finally they made it a standard, so we're getting two settings. We're getting suppressor and normal use setting. Alright guys, so suppressor setting, full magazine, and let's see how the HK416 does when the gas is a little bit choked down. So when you won't actually switch the port size, switch it from normal to suppressor and vice versa, generally we have a small hole drilled into the gas plug right here. Of course, the logical assumption is that you take the tip of your bullet and you basically turn it. But of course the holes are not in such position to make the entire move with the tip of the bullet. So you will basically never reach to the end position like that. So you need to play around with it. Which is absolutely terrible if you ask me. I actually think it's a scandal to have something so unfriendly toward the user. But we are only in the beginning. When we continuing, we have the offset sights made by German company Eratak. This set of sights cost 380 euros, okay, whatever. Anyway, they were lazy enough to basically don't make them in one line with the barrel on HK416. What I mean by that? That's that you basically can't zero these sights. Because not only that, now you basically trying to get the line of sight with the barrel, like in the traditional sense when you have the sights on top. Right here, but you have them on sides. Of course, the designers were lazy, so they didn't bother to like move the sides more toward the right to compensate for the higher profile of HK416. So let's say that you zero it on the traditional 25 meters, you are on point, but anything after that would just go like this. That means that on 150 to 100 meters through the mechanical sides, you would be missing your target. So thank you very much, German engineers, for that. Then we continuing, we getting finally this M-lock handguard. Most of us know that the H key, basically the proprietary Heckler & Koch locking system, basically nobody really like it. It's kind of useless and basically it binds you toward the Heckler Koch ecosystem, so I'm really glad that they done away with it. Then we continuing. So as we know, the 6-hour 560s that we have here as well, and that are in my opinion better rifles. Over there you didn't need to remove the entire front handguard to service the gas system. Here you still need to do that. For the longest time the Heckler Koch just used a screw right here. So on these luxury very expensive weapons you had for years and years a screw. I don't really know what happened. Probably one of the butlers of the owners of Heckler & Koch or the designers arrived on bike to work, so now we getting this, let's say, bicycle style locking system. If you look in the groove over here, you might think, okay, this is smart, I can use the base of cartridge to basically unlock it, like so, to get a little bit more leverage. Of course you can't, because the dimensions are off. It's not basically built for that, although it look like it. But to undo it, it's relatively easy, let's say. And finally, you can remove the entire handguard. Like so. So, in the year 2025, with the most modern weapon, we still need to do these shenanigans. Now you can imagine that you have the laser aiming module right in front. I'm sure it returned back to the zero well enough, but why do you need to do that? Why you just can't service the gas system from the front? I really don't understand. What is the main issue with this is that, okay, you receive the kit, you want to use every piece of the system as it was delivered. So naturally you use the suppressor on the weapon. As you fighting, firing, wet conditions, whatever, any suppressor pretty much will get carbon locked. That means that without use of some heat torch, little bit of violence or specialized tools, you basically can't undo the suppressor. That's okay, because the suppressor is still there, still basically have its function, so you can continue fighting whatever. But let's say that you want to clean the weapon, service the gas system. There is absolutely no way how you can get toward the gas system when the suppressor is carbon locked on the weapon. On pretty much any other weapon it just doesn't matter, because the suppressor is right there, so that's it. So yeah, well done on HK that in the year 2025, which is coincidentally the same year when this rifle was built, we still need to go through that. Once we actually have the handguard down, here you can see the external gas system. Right here is the adjustable gas block. We're having two settings, normal and suppressor, as I already mentioned, and G36 rifle style gas system. Even the gas pistons, they are actually interchangeable between those two types of assault rifles. Here in the front we see the extended receiver extension. It's a little bit longer than on standard AR-15. They also say that this is part of the reason why these rifles are considered to be so accurate. So yes, the barrels should be good. They claim that it's some proprietary French steel blend and that the lifespan of the barrels is 20,000 rounds. I have no reason not to believe that. High quality barrels, all that nice. Also, with the older models of HK416s who didn't get those perforations right here, they did those on this latest model just to save a little bit on the weight, in my opinion. When we continue, we getting in the set also this HK Sling with this cheap plastic buckles. This type of basically length setting, we know for example from the Ferro Concept slings, here we just getting cheap plastic variant, so that's that. QD mount in the front and one QD socket here in the rear of the receiver. The QD positions are quite good and I really like that they are a little bit raised so you don't get contact between the rails and the sling loop, so that's that. Then we get the ambidextrous receiver. For me personally, this is another evidence of the HK laziness. They kept this joint forever like so. And this is one of the worst designs of ambidextrous safeties. Basically, what happened as right-hander shooters, as you walk, basically you release the magazine just by touching your gear under your feet. The only gun that have it done even in worst way is CZ Brand 2. So if Heckler Koch want to get this right, eventually, they can buy 6-hour 5.16 and take a look how it's done properly. So also they should include with every rifle a zip tie, because this is what everybody does. This is rifle of my colleague that was serving in the French Foreign Legion before, also with HK416s, and of course he immediately done the same fix as everybody else does. Then we also getting the ambidextrous bolt release, all that it's cool, all that is good. Enlarged trigger guard, no problem there. And then this new pattern of the HK handles, which have quite big volume, but it's quite comfortably. We can also see that the level of the selector is tiny bit down, so the geometry is okay on this one, but maybe if you put some other AR-15 type aftermarket handles, the geometry might not be all that fantastic. Of course, we get 45-degree safety, which is the industry standard right now, so no problem there. Ambidextrous charging handle that is overmolded with plastic at the ends. The handle have exactly the same solution, also with like molded plastic. On the handle it breaking out all the time. Here we will see over time if it stands there. Generally, the charging handle is very well done, very comfortable, very wide, so no problem over there. Also it uses these two hooks, so basically we getting locking on both sides of the receiver, and also we have the interchangeable steel inlay. So in theory, over the lifespan of the weapon they can actually change the steel inlay and get solid positive index on the charging handle locking piece. Then we getting 6-position buffer with little extension as well, just for a little bit of added sturdiness. Maybe necessary, maybe not. 6 positions, the same old lazy design of the slim stock. Heckler Koch, I've seen on some exhibitions, have little inlay for QD right here. They didn't bother with this one. Also it have this little window where should be the numbers of the positions. Of course they are not there. So this is luxury rifle. This is supposedly very accurate rifle. My attitude toward accuracy of assault rifles is that it doesn't really matter. Anything between 2 to 4 MOA it's okay, but of course once you put LPVO, some Night Force, whatever, and start shooting groups, then it starts matter quite a bit more. For some time I was thinking how to utilize the rifle properly, how to utilize the potential of this rifle. The stock doesn't move at all. There are some rubber shims inside, so basically there is no play in it. The trigger itself, it's absolutely fantastic. It's two-stage trigger. So we have very short take-up and then very nice, very readable, long, high-quality barrel, extremely accurate, plus the suppressor on top, the offset sights. And I believe that our paratrooper slash air assault forces, the DSHV, found the answer. What they doing with their HK416s, which are exactly the same, is that they started something that they call Marksman 556. It's basically a course that you getting after basic training or during your service. You can like ask to be taught that, and what they do is they take their HK416s exactly in this configuration and they put LPVOs on top. And in their understanding, of course, they have the same marksmans like we have, that mean 308 calibers, UAR 10s, stuff like that, but they just started with this 556 methodology, and they just put LPVO, little bit of training. I believe the training take actually 11 days. Shooting all the time, shooting on the drones, also a lot of shooting in the burst. So something a little bit more dynamic than the traditional marksman with 308 rifle, and I believe this is absolutely the sweet spot for the potential that this rifle have. Because if you use assault rifles as I do, basically as ghetto blasters, let's say, for spraying and praying and just in the normal capacity, something like this, but more often the brand 2s are used, just the common infantryman rifles. It's good enough, accurate enough, it's maybe even better in some regards than this. But to get maximum of the potential, of the accuracy, and really utilize the fact that we are so lucky to get such expensive weapons currently, the marksman with 556 rifle is, in my opinion, way to go. As standard to the rifle, we getting 4 magazines of the HK Mag Generation 3, right here. Those are quite good magazines and they are locking into the 416 quite nicely. Much better than, for example, the PMAG 1st generation, that you really need to put some effort to seat them in. But no problem there. Of course, this is AR pattern, those are interchangeable, so no problem there. Now, what is the main reason why I really like these external piston designs? That's basically because you're getting much better feedback from the weapon. What that means is that when I pull the trigger, I know that either I shot, or I can really feel that the bolt stayed in the back position, so I don't need to do all the AR drills. When you look at the ejection port, just to realize what is actually happening with the gun, then go either to the reload or just changing the weapons, whatever like that. Supposedly the spring in the stock have around 20% more power than the standard AR-15 one, and you can really feel it when you're charging the weapon, that you need to use much more force. But what is benefit of that is that, for example, on very dirty guns, on some ARs, basically the bolt don't go all the way forward, so then you need to use the forward assists. Also on full magazines or overfilled magazines, basically the bolt stays hanging here because you have much more power in the spring. No problem to chamber those rounds. Generally the concept of having overgassed AR-15s, I just don't believe in that, because most AR-15s, I believe they are undergassed, because yes, they are very comfortable to shoot, then you get into your magazine 10 territory and you can just feel the gun slowing down, you start having problems chambering rounds and all that. Of course, most civilians don't use guns in that capacity, but I really believe that there is benefit in having bigger ports in case of the internal piston guns, or just having external piston properly gassed, stronger buffer springs, and basically creating the entire system more violent, and as extension of that getting better reliability and better feedback toward the shooter. Was it necessary, in my opinion, to go through the investment of Bundeswehr in buying those and trying to partially replace G36? Absolutely not. I believe G36s are just right. And without all the overblown internet drama, they could serve for the years to come in Bundeswehr with absolutely no problem. But yes, there were the problems with overheating in some very specific conditions, and as a result of that, losing accuracy. I said my opinion about accuracy already, so that's that. It's funny that you can feel on your hand the gas going out of the gas block. Talking about finishes, this is new weapon. It went only on one mission with my friend. Granted, the mission ended up in a close firefight, yes, but it's like under 300-400 rounds bullets. And you can already see that the finish is going off. So on a premium product like this, what is that even? So here we go. The magazine I mentioned, cheap sling I mentioned, fantastic finish suppressor I mentioned as well. Let's start from the lower. So the added speed to the bolt and to the entire cycling of the weapon, so we have stronger spring. We have also buffer that have tungsten powder and not the sliding weights, as we can know from normal AR-15 patterns. You can even hear the powder inside. Kind of, you can feel it, so this is very good solution for the anti-bounce and basically helping with cycling the weapon and keeping the weapon somewhat cultivated. Then we can also see that the spring is stronger here, basically the keeper of the buffer. The 416 also you can put it on safe even with the hammer down. So when we put the hammer down, like so, we can put it on safe, which is nice feature. We can also see the stainless steel buffer inside, right here where my thumb is. That's because of the added speed, added velocity, as basically the hammer flies in the back. This is just a buffer to prevent damage to the lower aluminum receiver, so that's that. Bolt release on the right side, okay. On the left side, it's like standard AR-15 pattern, although a little bit enlarged, that's that. And of course the horrible ambidextrous safety. Just mentioning the marking, here they just kept plain HK416. I believe in the German army nomenclature this one would be called G95A1, but who knows. The enlarged charging handle that I quite like, that's that. Here you can see the overmolded plastic parts. I think over time, as they with the abrasion on the sides, you might run into some problems, but we'll see. Then we get to the bolt. Here one fantastic feature is that the disassembly pin is captive, okay? Like so, so this is a fantastic feature. Also, the striker is right here. The striker does use a spring that preventing it from slam fires, when basically the bolt going forward with the added velocity, that the inertia of the firing pin will just not fire the round in the chamber. So that's like a little bit of safety feature. The safety feature in exactly the same style is this lever that basically blocking the firing pin, and only once the hammer arrives from here, put it a little bit aside so the firing pin can work properly. We see tombstone design, so basically the piston is punching on this section up here, cycling the weapon. That's also why we have enlarged this and basically the impulse or the impact of the piston, basically this enlarged part preventing the tilting, and over time you might run into problem in some other designs. Then we have also a little bit stronger bolt as it seems toward the end, but standard AR-15 pattern just by the number and location of the locking lugs. So no problem there. Normal camping right here. The standard two-piece gas piston, well technically this is the gas piston with the gas rings right here, and this is the op rod. that look like so. It's not supposed to be disassembled any further during maintenance, that's that. American Strike Industries hand stop, which I find quite odd to find on this weapon, but hey. Here we have the bicycle style locking interface. Very nice, HK, very nice. And here we have the receiver with the paint going down. Yes, of course. Forward assist. Me personally, I'm actually a fan of forward assists and I use them quite routinely, especially on dirty AR-15s. So some people think that this joint is redundant, that it should not even be there. I use it all the time. But maybe that's only because of on what type I was trained before, meaning AKs and other rifles. The breast deflector is actually interchangeable, again hinting at the added longevity of this weapon, because once this break whatever, you can just change this one little section and keep rolling, so that's that. Just to show you evidence how new and unfired pretty much this rifle is, you can check the chamber, you can check all the surfaces, just absolutely minimal use. That's that. Here we have the leaf spring that basically helped to irritate the gas piston. We also see the lighter profile of the barrel. One of the absolutely appalling things on the civilian variant of HK416 is that not only you don't get the French steel barrels, but you get some stainless steel match nonsense that is thick like this. So all the army rifles didn't use that barrel profile. For you as civilian, after paying the huge amount of money for the HK and the supposed quality, you get barrel that is not even supposed to be there. And that's that. So overall, guys, I like HK. I want to believe all the HK propaganda. I know how expensive and dear these weapons are, but that's exactly why I'm so harsh in assessing them. It's different when I look on AK-74 that was made in 1980, and I still consider them to be fantastic assault rifles. And if I look at rifle developed in 2025 by one of the most prominent companies with price tag that basically is $1,000, $2,000 above any other competitors. So thank you very much guys for watching. If you wish to support us, you can use the PayPal link down below or become YouTube member for extra videos.